Gamerdude 2088, and we're back for the full water rift guide because apparently just the how-to wasn't enough. I didn't explain enough in that video, and this time I'm going to take a little more time to explain what you need and what you should do and what you should have. I want to first say, don't mistake this B minus in that damage that I have because of my current level of play as my knowledge of the game, because those are two totally different things. But anyway, I've been doing a little research. I see like some of the higher level players as well as some of the more established YouTubers for Summoners War talk about this one thing of having two monsters for your defensive line, which is your front line, your defensive line. Playing too much Overwatch, and I noticed that it works for the Rift Raid as well as the Rift Beast, and that's pretty much all you need. That's all you need is like two tanky monsters, and I know my monsters are not the extreme tankiest, but this is my Mesity stats and my Bernard stats. They're not the extreme tankiest, but that's all you need is two really tanky monsters. I recommend like 20 over 20,000 HP, over a thousand defense as a starter. Of course, you're gonna want them higher as you progress. But as a starter, you really want that for your two frontline defense to be kind of effective. And the main thing with each Rift Beast is the amount of speed you have and the damage you deal. That's the most important thing, is the speed you have and the damage you deal. And with the last video, how I was explaining what's quite important for this Rift in particular that you need to bring is monsters that increase the attack bar, because with the freezing effect, the only way you can stop the freezing effect is by increasing your attack bar. So I have three attack bar increasers. I have Bernard as my main attack bar increaser, Bella, which is my only healer, which I will go into that later about healers, and my second attack bar increaser, and a Mesity as my single target attack bar increaser, which actually gives the best amount just because he fills the attack bar completely. So the freezing effect is pretty much done once he fills your attack bar for that monster in particular, since it's single target. And you want to maximize on as much speed as you can possible, because the more turns you get, the less turns the boss gets. The boss is pretty fast, and it's like pretty much with my team, after we all go, the boss generally gets a turn. Maybe I have like Bernard or something might get a turn, or Galleon might get another turn before the boss go, but that's generally how it goes. And my Bernard is like, what, 234 speed, so he's not really that fast. He's pretty fast, but not that fast. And my Galleon, I keep switching his rooms around, so he fluctuates between like 190 something and 200, somewhere in between there. He fluctuates, and then my two damage dealers as Lucian and Tashar, which I'm still kind of working out rooms for there. But for the healer in particular, I only use one because the purpose is about how much damage you can inflict. It's all about how much damage you can inflict, because I tried running different types of things. I tried to go on like full damage, no healer. That didn't work out too well. I tried running two healers, but I wasn't putting out enough damage. So this is pretty much the best team I came up with. And you want to bring somebody that can, for like all the risks, somebody that can that can give you an attack boost, which my Galleon does that, and a defense break, which Galleon, Bella, and Bernard does that as well. Because once he gets into groggy state, you're going to need that defense break, possibly a brand if you have that, and even a slow, like a monster that can apply slow, because the attack bar for the groggy state moves pretty fast, and that kind of helps in that instant too. That's just some of what you need to bring into the fight, because those things are important. But let's talk about some of the monsters that you can use. You see my monsters already, and there's plenty of other options. Let's talk about those monsters. Let's get out of here first. We have a wide list of monsters that you can choose from, and I'm not going to talk about every single monster in the game, but just a few monsters. That's pretty good for it because you're trying to maximize damage. I mean, Pumbik is a good options to have because he does have a decent single target attack. And I know a lot of people that use Pumbek just generally, so he's a good monster if you have one. Even Katarina's a beast, and you can fuse Katarina. So for the people that's free to play, this is a great option to have because mostly you want single target damage anyway. I mean, if you have AoE damage dealers that deal like really intense damage, then that's cool. But you're really looking for the single target damage. Mine would be Tashar. Tashar does real good single target damage. And with the defense breaking groggy state, Lucian's first skill can do a lot of damage. Even though Lucian just do damage because he breaks through defense regardless. Um, I mean, Tanya is another one that's a solid monster to have. I'm not gonna go over the attacks of the monsters, but just gonna talk about the monsters if you have these monsters, which is a good monster to bring in. Another one that's real good is Argon. Argon is another fusible monster, so you can fuse Argon. He come in and he can just wreck face with his third skill, as well as Orang, which is another fusible monster that does some really intense damage. So you have great options. So if you do have these monsters or you're looking to build these monsters, now will be the time to, get off your lazy ass, go farm out what you need to get these monsters, start leveling them up, get them 5-starred and get them 6-starred, all that good stuff. You bring some of your best runes out and do what you got to do just to take them down. And who I'm really curious to try out is my buddy Zephyrus. I want to try him out. I think he'll be real good for this rift. I mean, it's a lot of hidden monsters, which I'm going to kind of talk about in some other videos, that has great potential at the Rift Beast. You'll be surprised what's really good, like hidden gems within this game that's been probably useless everywhere else, but just a maze against the Rift Beast. Now, that's just a few monsters that I want to talk about because there's plenty more on the list, and I'm not familiar with every monster in the game, so I really can't talk about that. But let's get into like the healers per se. As far as I've noticed, the only Rift Beast that requires you to have more than one healer really is the wind one, because you have to heal to get rid of the electric shock effect. But since we're talking about the water, it's just like you only really need one healer. If you're not on some in-game insane rooms, then where you can just YOLO and just go in crazy, one healer is enough. One healer is good enough because it's about the damage you do, and you want to maximize as much damage as you can possible. And that is really important to be able to dish out insane amounts of damage to the Rift Beast. I literally built my Necro team because of this. I figure if I build my Necro team, I still have monsters that I will need for the Rift, because each Rift has something in particular that's important for certain monsters that you may need for those. And I just start building monsters. I'm like, I can use this monster for this as well as the Rift Beast. Like I can build. Like I built monsters, like I can use this in Dragons, I can use this in Necro, I can use this TOA, blah, 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 blah. I mean, I've been loving my Colleen because I've been using her like crazy. She doesn't have the greatest runes or the greatest stats right now, but for where she's at right at the moment, she's been doing exceptionally well for my team. Like, I use her. I've been using her in this run for TOA. I've been using her for the Rift Beast as like a support healer. So I do kind of have multiple healers in the place, but usually it's just one main healer, and I'm using her for primarily the attack buff. The fact that she can heal on top of it does help, but it's more so of a utility thing. The same way of like having Chisoon. Like Chisoon would be great to have anywhere in the game, period. And the fact that she heals on top of giving an attack buff, it's just the extra utility that can be used within the game. And I've just been ruining up a few monsters, just testing things out, trying new things within the game. And it's been working out pretty well for me, and I want to kind of share some of that in the next rift, which I'm probably going to talk about the win. I think I want to talk about next because that one's kind of important, and I kind of discovered something too while doing it. Probably something somebody else then found out, but I don't think anybody is talking about it as of yet. Let's talk about what you can do to improve your gameplay with the Rift Beast, the water one. Let's kind of recap back on what we're saying with the defensive line. If you have more than 2 monsters on the defensive line, that's not necessary. You only really need just 2. 2 is good enough. Just make sure that they're pretty tanky to be in there, having over 20,000 HP and 1,000 defense as a starter. So if you're not really doing that, you might want to put more than 2. But generally 2 is good enough. You want to bring in as much DPS as possible, having a lot of damage. If you can have 3 attackers, that's great. If you can have 4 attackers, that's great. If your attack buffer also has lots of attack power, that's even better if you can do that. Because remember in the Rift dungeons, your front line is going to tank most of the damage. You're not going to take a ton of damage in the back line. So it's okay if your monsters are a little squishy in the back line, just long as your front line defense stay alive. So you do want to have at least one healer that can help. Now, if you can manage with more than one healer and still put out a lot of DPS, then do so. But I only recommend having one healer, and the rest being damage and whatever utility that you need to help, whether it's the attack buff and the defense break. And most importantly, level up them runes. I know right now I need to level up some runes because I made some rune changes, like with my Tashar. My Tashar is not quite back where my Tashar should be, so it's like right now these runes need to be leveled up. But yeah, making sure they above plus 12 or even maxed out at that, so you can get the best potential that you can possible from your monsters. And I still got, like, because I've been changing a lot of runes. Like I re-rune my Mesity, I re-rune my Tashar. Lucian's still been on the same runes for like the last 6 months, and my Bernard kind of had the same runes. I'm probably not going to level this one up any more than what it is. It's only because of the speed and that little bit of accuracy. I really don't like this rune. I want to replace it. It's pretty much leveling up those runes and getting the best potential that you probably can possible out of your monsters. And I need mana so I can get my monsters a little better than what they currently are. And then figuring out what monsters that you have, if you can fuse some of those fusible monsters like the Argan, the Rang, and the Katarina. Those can help tremendously for this. I mean, if you run in Shannon, I mean, she's a wind monster, so she has attribute advantage. I mean, you can bring Megan in for the attack buff as well, and then having that defense buff is kind of okay because I'm using a Mesity too, so he does give him a defense buff for this. I mean, I'm not using him for that per se, more so of a frontline defense. I'm using him just to block damage for the most part, just because he's probably one of my tankiest monsters that I have, and he brings some of the best utility for the team. Making sure you setting up the right team strategy, having somebody that can something that can block good damage, something that can deal good damage, something that can increase the amount of output and damage you do, something that can make your monsters faster if need be. Generally, you'll bring in Bernard. I mean, why not bring in Bernard in a water dungeon? I mean, you do it in Giants, why not do it for the water rift? Because that's just kind of one of those important things. So I hope this kind of helped you guys out in some kind of way. Hopefully I covered everything I can, further as the kind of monsters you should bring, in particular monsters that's needed for the rift, making sure you have real strong single target damage dealers. There's plenty of them out there. I mean, you can pretty much water rift like full on farmable fusible team, like if you wanted to. Bringing in leveled up runes. I mean, I still need to level up my runes, so that tells you right there I got potential to do even better in the rift just with my current status and what I'm using. I'm going to do the rest of the rifts, I believe. Yeah, I'm going to try to do the rest of the rifts and talk about all of those and what you should bring to those. So stay tuned for those videos. And this is the Gamer Dude signing out. Hope you enjoyed it. If it really was educational to you, give it a like. If it wasn't, please tell me why. And I'm out. Deuces.